And welcome, everybody, to another edition of the GioMoShow, right here on 88.3 FM WXOU, Auburn Hills, Michigan, Oakland University, and all your wonderful station identification features. I am your host of the GioMoShow and sports media director of WXOU, Giovanni Mosheri. And the GioMoShow is your home for all Oakland sports and beyond on 88.3 FM. You can follow us at WXOU on all social media platforms, including Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, of which we have been awarded by the Michigan Association of Broadcasters, so it's surely to be worthy of a follow. You can also join our WXOU Discord server to get to know everybody at the station and stay connected with your favorite hosts like myself. And you can also find many things, articles, you can find game summaries, showtimes, everything you need on our website, WXOU.org, although maybe not this very minute. Some technical issues are affecting the website. But when it comes back, you'll hear it from me, and you'll know to go there for all information on the station. You know, what else could you ask for? Well, you can ask for my social media as well. That's something else you can ask for. I'm on social media as well. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, and there's a secret TikTok out there somewhere, although I don't know where to find it. The show has its own Instagram page, so be sure to go on Instagram and follow the GioMo Show. And if you miss me and you're not with me right now on our website or the TuneIn Radio app or 88.3 FM, then no worries. You can find me right here on YouTube, as well as afterwards. You can find segments of the GioMo Show, as well as the full cut-up recording on YouTube and Spotify. Just search the GioMo Show. And for today's show, we got a lot to talk about. It's going to be a little bit heavier on the Golden Grizzlies this time around, but we do have a little bit of Super Bowl and Pro Bowl kind of coverage to talk about, and just some kind of thoughts on the game itself, on the matchup, on how the Pro Bowl is organized now, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but it's going to be a lot of Golden Grizzlies basketball for this show today. So strap in, buckle up, and get ready for the GioMo Show. And before we do, I got to tell you about our games coming up. We broadcast games right here on WXOU, both men's and women's basketball, as well as later on this spring will be baseball and softball. So I'll give you a heads up on what's coming up this week for the broadcast. We got Wednesday the 8th at 7 p.m. It's women's basketball against Youngstown State. Again, that is Thursday, 7 o'clock. We got men's Saturday the 10th at Wright State. We got an away game potentially on the books there. We got a couple things to finalize for that broadcast, but plan on it. WXOU will be in Dayton, Ohio for the Golden Grizzlies against the Raiders. And then Saturday the 10th will be women's basketball once again at home, 2 o'clock against Robert Morris. And you can go to GoldenGrizzlies.com for all of the game schedules. And for the home games, you can expect WXOU to be there, as well as this away Wright State game for the men. All right, so all of that, all the technicalities, all of the checks have been checked. And it's time to get into some Golden Grizzlies basketball. Let's start with the men's team as they play 2 home games this weekend. Thursday was against Robert Morris. And this game took a little bit for the Golden Grizzlies to get going in it. Took some time to establish a lead, but once they got it, they did not look back. The lead got up to as much as 16 in the first half and then 20 at one point in the second half. So once the Golden Grizzlies got that lead, they kept rolling. And the igniter and the spark plug for that lead and for this game was absolutely the fifth-year grad student Blake Lampman. He had 20 points at halftime. He was 6 of 9 from 3 for the first half. With 7 of 10 from the field overall, he would end up finishing the game with 26 points. But an absolute electric, white-hot start for Blake Lampman for this game, and it was contagious throughout the entire team. If it wasn't Blake Lampman sinking threes, then it was Jack Golke, who made 4 of them, as well as going to the line 8 times, making all but 1 for a 19-point game for Mr. Golke. And then Trey Townsend, DQ Cole, had 11 points, along with Rocket Watts having 10. So it was a spread-out effort for the Golden Grizzlies in their 87-72 win over Robert Morris in the arena. I was there on the sideline, or not, I shouldn't say the sideline. I was there in the student section for that game. I had my face painted with our news director, Maya, was able to lend me some mascara for the face paint. And it was just a great game. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw all the threes that Blake Lammon was sinking in succession, efficiently. Like it was a great crowd for that game. And to give you an overall look at the box score, as mentioned, Blake Lammon was 26 points on the game, 9 of 14 from the field, and 8 of 13 from 3. He had 2 rebounds and 4 assists as well. Jack Golke, 19 points, 4 of 8 from the field, all of which were from 3, and he was 7 of 8 from the line with 5 rebounds on top of it. Townsend with 11, 5 of 9 from the floor. DQ Cole, 11 points, 2 of 3 from 3 included. And then Rocket Watts, 3 of 6 from the floor and 3 of 4 from the line. Baru led the team in rebounds with 8 of them, 4 and 4 offensive and defensive rebounds for Neva Larua. And overall, the team was 52%, round up to 53% from the field, and 55.6% from 3. It was a great game for the Golden Grizzlies, and they followed it up with another one. Going now to Saturday, February 3rd, 1 o'clock was the game time in the arena for the Golden Grizzlies and the Cleveland State Vikings. I was on the call for this one on WXOU Sports. Be sure to go there and subscribe to get all your full broadcasts of Golden Grizzlies basketball. You get highlights, you get broadcaster recaps, you get interviews, you get sports shows like the GioMoShow and like the Blue Ski Mask Show, which we'll mention shortly in the ad read. But be sure to go there to get the broadcast and to get your coverage on this game here, but you can stick with me here and hear a little synopsis of it. So this was a big game for the Golden Grizzlies. Now, at that point, 8 of their past 9 games were victories in the Horizon League, and Oakland was sitting at 3rd place and Cleveland State right underneath them at 4. So this one had huge implications for the Horizon League tournament seedings, of which the top 4 get a bye and a home game. And Cleveland State was 2 games behind Oakland, in that Oakland had 3 losses and they had 5. So it was a matter of, does Cleveland State get one step closer, or does Oakland bury them 3 games back? That game ended up being one to bury them back 3 games. 83-71 was the final score on the blacktop for the Golden Grizzlies and the Vikings, and let me take you through the journey. So it was similar to the Robert Morris game, where it took a little bit of time for the Golden Grizzlies to get their footing in terms of getting a lead on the game. But once they got it, once again, they didn't look back, and it was a heavy lead throughout the game. And this one was also sparked by Blake Lammon going deep from 3 to get Oakland their first lead in the first half. And he had a few more of those throughout the game. We'll get to the box score in just a bit. But not only was Blake Lammon, he had a game for himself as well. Trey Townsend had a game for himself. But it was the Oakland defense that I thought was specifically, how do I say this, specifically worthy of shine here. They always are, and they're a great defensive team. Campy always says that they're built on defense, and they can win in any way. But in terms of coverage on the GioMoShow, let's give the defense some shout-out, because they held Cleveland State to 32 points in the first half, and they held them to numerous scoring droughts throughout that first half, at least 2 minutes, 3 minutes scoring droughts that allowed Oakland to not only get up to the lead, but continue and stack onto it as well. They kept all Cleveland State players under 10 points in the first half as well. But getting over to the offensive side, Blake Lammon finished the game with another 26 points. I did not copy and paste my notes. Another 26-point game for Blake Lammon. He's been on fire for games beyond these. Ever since he came back from injury, I believe it was the December 6th game against Toledo. When Blake Lammon came back immediately, he was on fire. And to think that he almost couldn't play the season. He had a hip injury earlier in the season, or around the horizon, around early December, up until. And Campy was thinking that he had to redshirt him and sit him down and basically force him to wait another year, or he just would have to have the surgery and may never play again. But Blake took a risk. Between him and the coach, they took a risk in having him play, and they were going to, we didn't know what was going to happen. But man, has he made every difference in the world for this team. But getting more into the game here, once again, Blake Lammon finished with 26 points. But the story of the game, it's one that you guys, if you're on anywhere of Golden Grizzlies social media, then you know what I'm about to talk about. Cleveland State came into this game as the worst free throw shooting team in the Horizon League. As a team, they set at 67% from the stripe. And it was the Oakland University swim and dive team that stacked on top of that. Now, they always come to these athletic events, whether it's soccer or basketball. They come to events and they always bring the juice. Swimmers are a unique type of crazy, of which I am as well. I used to do my swimming in high school, so I know a little bit of the insanity that goes on swim teams. But they always come and they always bring the energy. But this game, they went above and beyond. Not only were the men in nothing but a Speedo, more than half naked, not only did they paint OU Pride spelled out with individual swimmers, not only did they have that painted on their chest, but during the second half, when the opposing team faces the Grizz gang for free throws, I noticed that the player in the center, I would say the energizer leader of the swim team, Ian Allen, I noticed his hair looked a little bit different. And I'm sitting on the opposite side calling the game here on the sideline. So I'm sitting on the opposite side of the court. So my field of vision, my vision gets a little obscured from distance. And I knew his hair was a little bit odd shaped. And then when I saw the camera on them on the Jumbotron, I saw that they had a razor in their hand. Dude, they were shaving their heads in front of Cleveland State as they were shooting free throws. And I looked even closer. Half the men were bald. They were shaving their heads for these free throws. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. When they were starting to shoot those free throws, I said on the broadcast, I am not even looking at the free throw anymore. I just was so caught off guard and distracted. At the timeout, I was laughing to tears. It killed me seeing what they were doing. I've never seen anything like that before. And it cost Cleveland State 4 free throws during the game. And it was just insanity in the arena for that game. It was astounding to see. And it's not just a local story. This got up on Barstool Detroit. It got up on the official Barstool. It got up on Bleacher Report, March Madness' social media accounts. This thing was spread nationwide to give the Golden Grizzlies some shine and to admire the haircuts going on during the game. They call it the Blacktop Barbershop, and I love that name. So we're going to refer to that as the Blacktop Barbershop, and there's some discussion going on whether some independent T-shirt makers will be making such apparel of the Blacktop Barbershop. So we'll see where that goes, but it was the funniest thing in the world to see. And, later that day was casino night held by SPB. I saw some of the swimmers there. I was dumbfounded. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So if you're anywhere on social media, go and find it. It's the definition for me of college sports. You can't do that if you're just a stranger going to a college basketball game. You can't do that if you're an alumni. You can only do that if you're a student, and especially as a student athlete, and especially an insane swimmer at that. You don't get to see that anywhere else in sports except college athletics. That's what I love so much about it, is the fans and the students are allowed to go beyond what the regular civilian is able to do. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So now getting to the box score of the game against Cleveland State. Blake Lampman, as mentioned, another 26-point game for him. 8 of 18 from the floor, 4 of 11 from 3. And he made all 6 of his free throws. He had 5 rebounds included with 3 assists and a steal. Trey Townsend, second in scoring. We got the interview with him after the game. Be sure also to go to WXOU Sports for that interview. He had 18 points, 8 of 12 from the field, with 2 of 2 from the line, 9 rebounds and 3 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal. Jack Goldkey, 9 points, 2 of 4 from 3. And it kind of goes down like the Golden Grizzlies after Townsend and after Lampman. 9 points, 8 points, 6, 6, 6, 4 points. The scoring was spread out throughout the game. It wasn't coming from just one place. It was everywhere. And To top it all off, not only did Cleveland State lose out on 4 free throws due to the haircuts, but somehow in some magical way, it got Oakland to go 23 of 23 from their free throw line. They were perfect from the stripe. And I like to think that it came a little bit at the, with the help of the swim team. But it was just an insane night. Golden Grizzlies win their ninth game of the past 10. Tied for first in the Horizon League, still with Green Bay. Both teams 10-3, 15-9 overall, both on 3-game win streaks. I am not sure of the tiebreakers between Oakland and Green Bay, but they're tied, and Oakland is set at second right now. Coming up for the Golden Grizzlies, they will be on the road for the next 3 games. February 8th will be at Northern Kentucky, looking for the sweep against the Norse, as Oakland was able to beat them in the arena. Then they travel to Wright State for their first matchup against the Raiders this season, a Raiders team that has the top offense in the Horizon League. And then they will go to Purdue-Fort Wayne to even out the series, as Purdue-Fort Wayne was one of their early December Horizon League games. And then they will come home on the 17th against IUPUI. So keep an eye out for that for the Golden Grizzlies. And along with that, we're not quite done with the men's basketball yet. We'll get to women's basketball, and then we'll get into the NFL. But I have a little editorial for you guys. I have a little personal piece I want to give to the nation and to everyone listening, to Oakland University and beyond. I was looking around in some of the local sports media, as I am one to do. I checked out the local sports radio station, and I noticed that they had a segment dedicated to Detroit Mercy still being winless on the season. 0-24 in that, to be exact. They had a 10-minute segment dedicated to just them and how historically bad the team is. That's fine. That's worthy of news. They gave it one segment and they said their goodbyes. Okay, that's fine. It's an interesting story. Then I also saw on an 11 p.m. program, and I just happened to see it, they did their sports work segment, and I noticed that at the very end, when the music was fading out and they were wrapping up the segment, they gave another mention to Detroit Mercy being winless. I'm like, okay. Yeah, I mean, half a sentence they gave it. Okay, that's fine. But what I kept waiting for the whole time was for their all equally small segment of Oakland basketball. Because you have the 2 in-state Horizon League rivals, and you mention one of them because they're terrible, but you don't mention the other that's doing very well. I find that odd. I find it very odd, and it turned into odd. The odd turned into frustrating. As I broke it down, it got a reaction out of me, and I started to break it down. Where, okay, that's fine. You give it a small segment, especially when the Lions are no longer playing, especially when the Pistons are terrible, and especially when the 2 Big Ten teams in the state, are the basketball side of things, are not very good themselves. So in a spot where the local sports news is at a little bit of a low spot, you mention Detroit Mercy, but you don't mention Oakland. I got a problem with that. You mentioned the team that hasn't had a winning season since 2015. That winning season was 16-15, by the way. You mentioned them, even though they haven't done nothing for a long time. Yes, they had Antoine Davis. Okay, but for what? You mentioned them, but the rival team in the same state, 30 minutes away, still in the southeastern Michigan area, the team that has won 9 of their past 10, a team that is tied for the top of their league, and a team that has the longest tenured D1 basketball coach in the country. Well, you got that team sharing the league with Detroit Mercy, and they get no mention. You don't even flash the logo. You don't say the name. You don't say anything about it. I got a big problem with that. You're telling me that people are so much more interested in a terrible Pistons team, in a terrible Michigan team, and a mid, not living up to their expectation Michigan State team. You're telling me that people are so much more interested in those teams that you can't even give Oakland a sentence on the air after the great season that they've had. Don't give me the, well, when is the last time you've gone to the tournament? Don't give me that, because Detroit Mercy's got just as long of a streak of not being in the tournament themselves. Like I mentioned, they haven't had a winning season in 7 years. So don't give me the tournament thing. This team, I believe, is worthy of a simple sentence, of a simple mention, of a simple flash of the logo in the record. You can't tell me that it is so difficult for people to listen to that they will immediately turn off the station and immediately turn off their TV and go and cry and scream in their bedroom because they had to see the Golden Grizzly logo. You can't tell me that that's the case. I think that's ridiculous. I find it to be lazy programming to not even give them a simple mention when they are in the area, when they are doing well, and you mention their in-state rival. I wouldn't care at all if they didn't mention Detroit Mercy at all, and they kind of had a sentiment of, okay, no Horizon League. Fine. I'll be cool with that. But you mentioned the team that's in the state that has the rivalry with ours, but not us. That's where I got the problem. Mention the both of us. If you're going to mention one of us at all. We're doing great, and I think it's a team that is exciting enough to warrant a sentence on air. Do you remember when I mentioned they were shaving their heads during the game? Excuse my voice. They were shaving their heads during free throws. That's not worthy of nothing? I find that ridiculous. And if it comes out later that they start talking about that, this rant will be forgiven. This rant will be a little bit outdated. But I think it's a general sentiment. I want to bring this now to a general sentiment of covering mid-major Michigan basketball. Michigan as in the state. The universities within the state. You don't have to go too long on it. I'm not asking for a Netflix documentary on every D1 team in the state. I'm just asking for a little bit more coverage. Just a little bit. Show people that it exists. Do you have any idea how many people out there on Oakland's campus do you have any idea how many people don't know that we have athletics, that we have Division I sports? Okay, well, simply mentioning it will be more than enough to get people aware of that. And it's an exciting team. It's an exciting team. And if you want to broaden it out to the rest of the schools in the state, well, you got Central Michigan that is near the top of the MAC, and they have a 5-game win streak. And their last 2 games were in double overtime, and they still got those wins. I'm not saying to exclusively cover Oakland. Hey, Central Michigan's doing well. Why don't you go mention them? Hey, Oakland's doing well. Give them a sentence. Do a mid-major roundup in the state. I'm not asking for a whole lot. I'm just asking for a little bit. Show that we exist. I find it lazy that you can only show the same colors and the same shapes of the teams that people are used to seeing. I find it lazy to just go through the same routine of all these teams that are either mid or average to absolute terrible. I found that very frustrating when I saw it, not only on the radio, but on the TV as well. That you mentioned the winless Titans and nothing about the top of the Horizon League Golden Grizzlies. Ridiculous. So that will close it out for men's basketball segment of the GioMoShow. We're back here in the Positive Attitude. We're going to be getting into women's basketball after this short break here, and then we'll be getting into some of my thoughts about the Super Bowl, about the matchup, about what I think of how it's going to go. We'll talk about a little bit of the Pro Bowl, about the format, whether it's good or bad for the league, and we'll kind of get our general thoughts on those. We'll mix all the NFL in after the women's basketball. But before we get into that, I got to tell you about our other sports show on WXOU. Tuesdays at 4 p.m. is the Blue Ski Mask Show. It is your home for for Detroit football and Detroit basketball. To get all the action in the Motor City, Tuesdays 4 to 5, hosted by Oakland Post sports editor Brock Hillig and sports reporter Kirk Szymanski. They break it all down, game analysis. They give you player profiles. I mean, they give you everything you need for Detroit sports. So be sure to tune in tomorrow at 4 p.m. on WXOU for the Blue Ski Mask Show. And we'll be right back with women's basketball here on the GioMoShow. Welcome back, everybody, to the GioMoShow, 88.3 FM WXOU. We just got done talking about men's basketball, and I had a short rant about local Detroit sports media coverage of our Golden Grizzlies, of which there is none. If you're on YouTube, then you can skip back. You can take a look at that one, or you can wait until the podcast version on Spotify comes out and the full cut-up on YouTube plus segments. We got it all on the GioMoShow on YouTube, so be sure to go search the GioMo Show on YouTube and hit subscribe. Something else spelled like it, so if you can't find it, it means you spelled it wrong. All right, let's get into Oakland University women's basketball. They had a couple of road games this past weekend. Wednesday the 31st was at Wright State. This game started off hot for Oakland as they ended the first quarter up by 14 points. But then in the second quarter, Oakland was held scoreless for the opening few minutes, which allowed Wright State to cut the lead down to 2. And then from there, it was a wrestle for the lead up to halftime. Wright State was able to get the 1-point lead going into the halftime tunnel. And then in the second half, it was all Wright State. Oakland got down by as much as 12 in the third quarter, and Oakland was able to get it close and within a possession, but ultimately could not complete the comeback. Oakland falls to Wright State. Final score, 68-80. Looking to the box score, Brooke Quarles-Daniels and Linda Van Schaik and Kennedy Monty were all tied for top scorers for the Golden Grizzlies at 13 points. Quarles-Daniels was 6 of 16 from the field, 4 rebounds and 7 assists. Van Schaik, 5 of 13 from the field, 3 of 9 from 3 with 6 rebounds as well, 3 of them offensive. And then Kennedy Montague, 4 of 8 from the floor and 3 of 5 from 3, making 2 of 2 free throws for her 13 points. And then moving on to their next road game, I apologize, this won't be as long of a segment, but Northern Kentucky was their next opponent on the road. This one was pretty much cut and dry. Oakland didn't have a lead for any part of the game. The leads got up pretty high for Northern Kentucky, and they took it all the way to the end of the game. Final score was 82-90. Oakland falls to Northern Kentucky. Looking to the box score of that game, Brooke Quarles-Daniels leads the Golden Grizzlies in scoring with 17, playing 29 minutes with 6 of 13 from the field, 5 of 7 from the stripe with 6 rebounds and 3 assists, 2 steals as well. Maddie Skorupski, second in scoring, 16 points, 5 of 11 from the field, and 6 of 6 from the free throw line, 5 rebounds included. And then Markai McCormick and Linda Van Schaik tied with 14 points each. McCormick, 4 of 7 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3, and then half of the free throws, 4 of 8 from the line. And then Van Schaik, 5 of 12 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3, and 3 of 3 from the stripe with 5 rebounds for her 14 points. As it stands right now, Oakland University is 7th in the Horizon League, 5-8 with a conference record of 5-8. They sit at 7th. And next up will be home games here in the arena against Youngstown State. That's this Thursday, 7 o'clock against the Penguins. You can hear that one also on WXOU. And we got Robert Morris this Saturday, 2 p.m. against the Colonials. Also can be heard here on WXOU. And then one bonus segment for you guys. We love our D3 club hockey team here on the GioMoShow and on WXOU Sports. And they had a wild weekend of games in the ACHA of D3. The current rankings came out before the game started. Oakland was placed at 12th place in the country. And their opponent for the weekend was ranked number 13th, the University of Michigan. They played 2 games. One was in the Birmingham Ice Arena for an Oakland home game. WXOU Sports was there for sideline coverage. And you can find that also on WXOU Sports' YouTube channel. We got a video of pre-game interviews with athletes, post-game interview with the game-winning goal scorer, and we got a game recap for you as well. So be sure, once again, to go to WXOU Sports to find your D3 hockey coverage. So against the University of Michigan, I'll spoil the game a little bit for you guys here. You can get all the details of the game on that YouTube video. So once again, be sure to check it out. But to give you guys a synopsis of it, the game in Birmingham went into overtime, of which Oakland was able to get the game-winning goal, finishing with a high-scoring 5-4 final score. Oakland gets the win against the reigning national champions, against a team that they have not beaten in the past 10 matchups. 0-9-1 was their record against the Wolverines until this weekend. Got the 5-4 win in overtime, and they took it to Ann Arbor for their second game. They won that one in regulation in another high-scoring event, 6-5, to sweep the Wolverines this season and to get the revenge that they've needed against the reigning champs. And this weekend will be the final weekend of the D3 regular season. They will face Northwood at the Buffalo Wild Wings Arena Friday, February 9th, and then they will go to the Midland Civic Center to face Northwood at their place. So Northwood is their final two matchups before the regular season ends and the national playoffs begin. The Golden Grizzlies got big goals for this season in the playoffs, as last year just making it was not enough. They want another taste of the playoffs, and they want to get back. And they believe that they are the best team in the country, and they could take it all. And they will be looking to do so after this weekend. So we'll keep you guys up to date on D3 hockey on the GioMoShow as well as on WXOU Sports. So be sure to subscribe to both WXOU Sports and the GioMoShow. And we want to also give a big thank you to the D3 hockey team for not only letting us cover them. Me and Drew Allison were on the sideline for the first matchup against Michigan, and did our pregame interviews, did our coverage at the end, had fun watching it. Drew Allison, our resident hockey guy on WXOU Sports, did a great job of teaching me a little thing or two about hockey, and we just had a great experience there. And also a thank you to the team for giving us our biggest video on the sports YouTube channel. Our interview with Brendan Danu after the U of M Flint game, I believe. Or no, rather after the Central Michigan game that we covered live on WXOU Sports. That interview got 145 views. Now, let's put it into perspective here. Most of our videos, just to be very candid and to be very real, most of our videos get around 20 to 30 videos. So to get 145, or rather, it's over 160 now. It was 140 by the time I wrote this. But, D3 hockey fans, they're very passionate about their team. So we thank you guys for tuning in, and we're happy to be your place for coverage on the team. You can also go find them on their website for more coverage on the team. It is a long URL, but let me read it anyway. It is oaklandhockey.d3.acha.hockeytech.com. But if you just Google Oakland D3 Hockey, you'll find it. They got great coverage of their team as well. And that will wrap up all of the Oakland sports for today's GioMoShow. Coming up next, we're gonna be getting into the Super Bowl, the matchup that we got, whether we like it or not. We're going to get my thoughts on how the game will go, some of the storylines going out through the game, and we'll give a little shining segment to the Pro Bowl and how the new format that we got, instead of the padded up AFC versus NFC, we got the flag football and games format of the Pro Bowl. So we'll get all the coverage of that for your NFL football therapy coming up next on the GioMoShow. But let me remind you of another WXOU show we have. We have the Eli Andrew Show. Thursdays at 10 p.m. on WXOU. The FCC guidelines die down after 10 o'clock here on WXOU. And Eli Sepulveda and Andrew Deacon, your hosts of the show, will ask their guests the wildest questions and take full advantage of those lifted guidelines. You guys can join in on the hilarity with Eli and Andrew. You can find it Thursday at 10 p.m. right here on WXOU. And coming up next, we'll have that Super Bowl and NFL football coverage on the GioMoShow. And we're back here on the GioMoShow, 88.3 FM WXOU, your home for Oakland sports and beyond on 88.3 FM. And we have now reached that beyond segment of the GioMoShow where we're talking about the NFL. It's time for football therapy. We only get to do it one more time for next week post-Super Bowl show. But this week we had that bit of a week off. And in that week off, they had the Pro Bowl games going on. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But about the Super Bowl matchup that we have here. Obviously, it's not what literally anybody wanted. Unless you are the fans of those participating of the 49ers or of the Chiefs. If you're not in those fan bases, then I got a hard time thinking that you got any juice and any skin in this game. It's tough, especially when you had the Baltimore Ravens, the best team in the NFL. They had the best defense. They had the best running game. And I just found them to be a lot more exciting to watch. Not only because of just how good they were, but simply because it's a new team getting to the Super Bowl, and it's a new team trying to make their legacy known in NFL history. That's kind of the way I lean. I like the underdog over the overdog, and I get sick of winners really quick. I understand how stupid it sounds, but it's just what interests me in terms of sports narratives. I'd rather see the team that has built their way up to this shot, to give themselves that opportunity to get into history either for the first time or for the first time in a long time or for the first time for those on the team. I like those stories a lot more than the guys who just are so good and so historically great that they just keep going, and it doesn't matter what anybody likes or what anybody says or does, they're still going to be there. I understand that you like more of the Goliath, but I'm more of the David type. So to get the Chiefs, who have been there, 3 of the past 4 Super Bowls, they've been in there, and they've just been home game in the playoffs the whole time. Every AFC championship game for the past, I think, 5 or 6 years. I get fatigued very quickly on teams like that. And obviously, the previous one was the Patriots. Dynasties get a little bit old for me. So, yeah, I wasn't too happy with the Chiefs beating the Baltimore Ravens. And you guys heard me talk about it last week on the GioMoShow. You guys could go and tune into that. I got the clips set up specifically for the NFC and AFC championship games. I just couldn't believe that Baltimore blew it. I can't believe how their brains just didn't show up that game, made the dumbest penalties, the worst game plan, and I couldn't, it was so winnable, and they still couldn't do it. It bothered me so much. I didn't care. If it was the 49ers and the Ravens, fine. If it was a rematch of the old hardball Super Bowl that happened in 2012, I would have been fine with that. But to get a rematch of the 2020 Super Bowl, that was personally, I wasn't as focused on football as I am now that I'm in the sports media game. But, that I wasn't, too keen on that matchup. But, to get it again just after 4 years, I don't know. It's just not grabbing me. It's not as interesting as if the Lions were in it against the Chiefs, or if the Lions were in it against the Lions against the Chiefs or against the Ravens, or basically every other possible Super Bowl matchup would have been more interesting to me than the one that we got. And it's a sentiment that is shared throughout the nation, and especially around the Metro Detroit area. Those of the Lions fandom, they share that sentiment too, because not only is it, it's just the teams we've been seeing all season. It's, we get more State Farm commercials with the Chiefs, and we get more of the Taylor Swift coverage that has been an old story since it started. And it's, I find the 49ers to be a little bit more interesting, but, it's the Brock Purdy story. It's the dumb argument of if he's good or if he's bad or if he deserves it or if he is just undeserving of it. I find it to be a dumb conversation with Brock Purdy. He's good on his good team. He's not Joe Montana. He's not the best in the world. But, like, why does he have to be the best in the world if he's in the Super Bowl? The team around him is good. So what? Why is that his fault? Like, I don't see why it's such a huge conversation. He makes the right plays. Some of them are pretty good plays. But he's a second-year last pick in the draft out of Iowa State. Why does he have to be the best in the world? The team is built to fit a quarterback exactly like him. And he is fit onto a team exactly fit for him. Like, I don't understand that whole conversation. So it's like, it's just, if it was the Ravens and you got Lamar Jackson, you got this new style of football, you got Jim Harbaugh winning a Super Bowl for or winning the championship for Michigan, and then you got John Harbaugh getting ready to do the Super Bowl, and get 2 Harbaugh championships in 1 year. Like, I like that story a lot more. I like the defensive history of the Ravens and how Roquan Smith is like the heir to the throne of Ray Lewis, like I guess in a modern version of it. I find the Ravens much more interesting. But they played horrible in their only hosted AFC Championship game and didn't deserve to go, sadly. So where am I going with this? Forgive me, this is a little bit of an unscripted segment, just my thoughts on the matchup. I don't want to get too much into like, it should have been an alliance. Obviously, it's going to hurt. Obviously, it makes for a less desirable experience that we could have been there. But I'm not talking about that right now. It hurts too bad. It's going to hurt in the Super Bowl when it's like, it should have been us. We're not talking about that right now. We got the 2 red teams going at it in the Super Bowl. And yeah, let me talk about the colors for a second. Let's get to the really dumb part of the conversation I want to have. Is above all the storylines and the matchups of the play on the field, 2 red teams, nasty looking in the Super Bowl. I don't like the aesthetic of it visually. I remember when it was the first time it was that matchup, it was just red cups all over the house. I like it where you buy you buy the cups and it's like, who are you rooting for, Uncle Joe? I'm rooting for the blue team on my cup here. Or I don't know if my Uncle Joe would be as positive about it. I'm just teasing. But there's no colored aesthetics here. You got 2 red teams and it's like, this doesn't look appealing at all. Both the end zones are going to be red. Like, I don't know. I don't like the colors. So be it. Let me hate the colors. I think a blue and a red would have been better. I think a purple and a red would have been better. I think a blue and a purple would have been unique. Definitely. I don't know if we've ever had a purple and a blue Super Bowl before. I mean, the purple would have to come either from the Vikings or the Ravens. The Vikings, I don't think, played a blue team back in the 70s. No, I mean, purple and blue. You got the Ravens and the Giants in 2000, but I mean, the Giants were, I guess, the primary colors are mostly. Well, they wore white in the Super Bowl, but so we've seen the colored before, but either way, I mean, it has been in 24 years that we've seen that colored combination. So, it's gonna be a lot of red, and it's gonna be the Niners and the Chiefs. In terms of the game itself, I'm going to take the favorites in this one. I think the 49ers have knocked on the door for long enough on the Super Bowl that they're due. I think that their team is built in a way that is well-rounded and capable of doing everything that the Chiefs can and more. I know the Chiefs' defense is very, very good, but it's when it's just defense and it's just a run game, when you have the best quarterback, it's like the quarterback can only do so much. If you're handing it off, it's not about what Mahomes can do. If you're throwing it, it's going to be dropped. Kelsey's the only one that can catch it. Kelsey will catch it a lot in this game because it doesn't matter. That's another side point. I think Kelsey's going to catch it a lot in this game. But it's Mahomes can only do so much given how the team is built, in this day and age of the Chiefs. So it might be a sloppy, it might be a defensive, slow Super Bowl, but I got the Niners in this one because I think their defense can stand up to that of the Chiefs, and their offense is a lot better than that of the Chiefs. So we'll put it simply, I think Mr. Irrelevant can win a Super Bowl over the new GOAT. Could we call it Patrick Mahomes? But, it's going to be a rough Super Bowl. I don't got the juice for it, but it's what we got, and it's what we're going to watch. I'm not going to not watch it. Let's be real here. I'm going to watch it. And you guys are all too. Don't act like you're boycotting it because the Lions are not in it. You will watch it. So that's just about all I got for the Super Bowl here. I mean, like I mentioned, it's the whatever matchup. I don't got a whole lot to say about it. So we're going to take a short break here, and then we'll wrap it up with my thoughts on the Pro Bowl, how it's formatted, and why people have a problem with it, and whether I have a problem with it or not. We'll see. And you'll have to see in just a few moments here on the GioMoShow. Before we go to break, we got Friday Night Grooves here on WXOU. Fridays at 8 p.m., you can listen to DJ RBJ tune up his songs in Friday Night Groove. He's been hosting it since 2011, and he plays the best soul, the best jazz, the best electronic, indie, and alternative music that we have here at the station. I got to say it. I got to give it up to RBJ. He's got the best stuff here on the station, and he's got a voice that will just melt your heart. He's got the best radio voice in the game, and it's a shame that he plays so much music because I just wish that he would talk more during the show, but he does a great program for Friday Night Grooves. Once again, it's Fridays at 8 p.m. right here on WXOU. You could go to his website, FridayNightGroove.com, to get more details on the show, or you can follow at Trill Gunderson. That's at TRIL Gunderson on Instagram for more on the show. Friday Night Grooves, 8 p.m. on WXOU. We'll be right back with the Pro Bowl games right here on the GioMoShow. Final segment of the GioMoShow. It's the Pro Bowl games coming up, or already happened. I actually don't know when I believe they're all done at this point. And that could be the start of our conversation. I don't know what the Pro Bowl is or where to find it or when it's being covered. And, I don't know a whole lot about it. And that's my fault. I could look it up. But for something as big as the Pro Bowl, I'm very tuned into sports, especially the NFL when it comes to watching them on social media. And, I follow all the accounts and stuff. If I don't know when I could watch the Pro Bowl games, then I believe that there's a problem. It could be a problem with the simple advertising on social media. It could be a problem with the fact that I don't think it's one event. I think it's a week-long thing nowadays. But the overall issue is I don't know. But regardless of that, it happened. You've seen the clips. I've seen the clips on social media and stuff. So this was all the conversation last year and even the year before when they were starting to change the format of the Pro Bowl. But what does the GioMoShow think about it? Honestly, I like how it's formatted now. I like that it's a lot more lighthearted. The Pro Bowl's always been a little bit more lighthearted, but I like how it's just the guys and shorts and T-shirts, just kind of casual. You could see their personality more because, that's one big thing with football is that the players always have a helmet on, and just by the nature of it, you can't get as connected to the players as, let's say, in the NBA, where they're in, we'll call it normal clothes. They're not padded up or a suit of armor or anything. So the Pro Bowl allows them to just kind of be very casual. They show their personality. You get you could literally see what they look like. I feel like that goes a long way when it comes to, being connected and being a fan of the players that are included. So I like that it's casual. I like the flag football part of it. Honestly, I don't mind that it's flag football as opposed to the padded up tackle. I know it's, for the players, they don't like it as much. They probably don't like it as much. The offensive linemen, the defensive linemen, they don't get the representation. They don't get the representation the same in flag football as they do, when they're fully padded up and stuff. And I know they don't go all the way as hard, and it's more for fun, but it kind of sucks for the O-line, but I like the flag football promotion by the NFL. I like that it's going to be an Olympic sport in 4 years at the next Olympic Games. And No, shout out to the Paris Olympic Games coming up. That's going to be fun to cover. We'll talk about that on the Joe Show for sure over the summer. But I like the promotion of flag football. I play with my friends, and I think it's very fun. I think it's a way, obviously, it's a very casual, entry-level way to enjoy the sport of football without hurting yourself over it. You know, you buy some flags at the dollar store, you grab a football, and boom, you already have enough to play. As opposed to you need the helmets and the pants and the cleats and the thigh pads and the shoulder pads. Like football is not as accessible as a sport. It's a problem that the sport has when it comes to growing a global brand. I'm not against football growing in that sense. Tackle football will always be there in America, but for the rest of the world, it's probably just going to have to be flag football. So I like the promotion of it. And I like that there's always the risk of injury when you do the tackle football Pro Bowl. So this kind of takes it out. Obviously not entirely. You walk out the door and you could get injured. But, you know, I like that it's just a lot more lighthearted. But the issue with it, in the stigma that I don't think you could ever fully get rid of, is one, the fact that it's not in Hawaii. That blows for the players. And I think you could hold all these things in Hawaii instead of Orlando, Florida. We all love Orlando. Orlando's nice. Florida's a nice place to be. But, like, it's such a, with all due respect to Orlandians, but compared to Hawaii, it seems like such a cheap cop-out for what used to be a great vacation for all the players and their families. Like, Hawaii is S-tier vacation. Florida is B-tier vacation for warm weather. You know, and I don't know. I mean, forgive me if I'm unaware of some situation over in Hawaii that I don't know of, but I know that they did it in Vegas. They've done it in Florida again. Like, they just won't do it in Hawaii anymore. But yeah, when you look at like from like up here, you know, my hand up from up there to Hawaii to down in Orlando, it's cheap. It's like why can't we go to Hawaii? It's all relative. That's, I think, is what's the problem with the Pro Bowl and what a lot of players and a lot of fans have an issue with. Not just the fact that it's the destination, but like, well, a big part of it for me at least is the destination, but it's like it used to be this big thing and this big spectacle. It's something the players look forward to. It's something that was just like part of the fraternity of the NFL. But now that it's just this fugazi, you know, backyard field day type of thing, then it's not as cool. It's not about the present. It's about what the past used to be. That is what I think is the issue with the Pro Bowl. You can't really change that. Now, if you really wanted to meet in the middle, you put this thing back in Hawaii or some island vacation spot. Orlando will never be an island vacation. It's a cheap alternative for a business and for a league that makes so much money. You telling me you can't fly out a bunch of people to Hawaii? You're telling me that up until like 3 years ago, I understand COVID might have been a part of it, but you're telling me that all of a sudden the financials are no good, that you can't afford to fly all these families out to Hawaii and, you know, for a week? Insane. Yes, you can, but you're too cheap to do it. And it's costing the players a good time. And it's costing the players that work so hard in this league and deserve it and have been looking forward to playing in the Pro Bowl since they were a high school player. You know, like that's part of the gig. And you can't fly them out to Hawaii. That sucks. And some of the events, okay, there's like the kicker. There's the kick-tack-toe where the kickers are like hitting the ball on a big board for tic-tac-toe. It's fun. Like, I don't have a problem with any of the games. I don't care if they're, like, soft, if you want to call them that. I think they're fun. I think they're creative. I wish there was more of, like, the physical challenge type of games where it's like, you know, how many reps of 225 can you do on the bench? How far can you throw the football? You know, like, I like the pass accuracy challenge, but, I like just the straight metrics. Like, have the wide receivers do a long jump or something. Like, I think that stuff would be really cool. And, you know, some of like the bigger, stronger events for the linemen, like, now let's do more of that stuff. I like the games, but like, come on, let's be real here. So overall, I like the Pro Bowl. It's just what it's compared to in the past is what's going to be a stigma over it for a long time. So, that's going to do it for the JoMo Show. That's all I got in the Super Bowl. That's all I got in the Pro Bowl. On women's basketball and on Oakland men's basketball. And my short little rant on Locals Detroit sports media. That'll do it for you on the JoMo Show. Giovanni Moschieri has been your host and will be your host next time, Mondays at noon on WXOU. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube. Be sure to 5-star on Spotify. Be sure to subscribe to WXOU Sports on YouTube and find all of our broadcast articles, interviews, anything you need. Find us all on WXOU. We'll be back here Monday at noon on the JoMo Show. This has been Giovanni Moschieri.